Time for another TF Live, this time with a student who was really maxed out at address with this kind of posture like this, right? And when we get into good posture, you know, one of the things that we'll see a lot is you'll see players really trying to push their butt back, kind of tilt the pelvis down like this. And of course, you want to have the rear end back and you want to have the belt buckle turning down, but we got to be careful that we don't maximize that out so much where we start getting this dish in here like this. You hear the word S posture. That's kind of what that is right there. You get that dish in the lower back. Now, if I was to stand here for 30 seconds, I would really start to feel it in my lower back. Now, with this particular player, maxed out here with that dish, was really kind of locking him up in this pelvis region and his ability to kind of turn going back. His hand path was starting to work out away from him like this. And then from there, he would recruit in his spine and his shoulders turning. But then as he would come down, the pelvis would want to push in a little bit as well, exposing the hosel. So the shank would show up from time to time. Unless he wouldn't shank it, you would have to kind of stand the handle up at impact to get it back on the center of the face. So one of the things that I'll talk about with players a lot is, yes, we want to hinge forward, but we want to really have this lower back more like that, flatter. Okay, we call that N posture. The opposite of that would be like this, right? You see a lot of this. This is C posture. This would be too much that way. Okay, so your pelvis can rock back and forth. Okay, and when I'm doing that, I feel the dish. Now I took it out. It's flatter. Okay? So for this particular player, he would get in there. I'd say, go normal. And then I said, now just let your hips kind of ride underneath you a little bit. And you would see some of that shimmy. You can probably see it me kind of shimmying a little bit. But we would do that so he would be aware of what his pelvis was doing at address. Okay? So it's a good exercise to take it maxed out and then let it ride up underneath you a little bit to the point where that flattens out. So you can still see I'm hinged forward, right? Just like this, but this looks flatter through here. Now, as a result, we would start to turn that hip a little bit better. We had a little freer range of motion into here. Now the hand path could work in. But more importantly, as he would come down, he felt like he had some range now to push back in transition and turn. Before, maxed out, I kind of feel more locked. I can't turn as free. And the pelvis oftentimes will want to kind of push in as all that force is going that way. And so we need to counter that force. And with this particular player, good player, right? Had good positions up here, could get the club to the inside. So all that energy coming from the inside in here, we need to counter that by pushing back and turning so it turns the corner and goes back around the other side. We can't have that coming from in here and then having that ride in like that. All right? So you'll feel locked out, you know, and unless you have a ton of range of motion usually in your spine, you know, it's very difficult to create a ton of speed there. So we get in there, max out, find that flat spot, end posture. He might have to scoot in a little bit. He felt like he had to get a little closer, which was fine. And then from there, let the hand path come in and then really start to push back. Now we had that range. It was available to him to kind of push back and turn. And now the club head coming from the inside, it could come back around the corner and he started to catch it more on the center of the face. So I like this lesson. I have this from time to time with players, usually with better players, to find that neutral posture, to work on some of that hand path inside, but more importantly, to feel like you can start kind of sitting down and pushing back and turning. And if you look at that from this face-on view, you can see kind of adding some flexion here in the knees and turning. And it feels like I'm kind of sitting and pushing back this way in transition to counter that inside path and let it exit back around to the left. And when I do that, boy, I catch it right on the center of the face and less on the heel. So a little posture and how the posture can kind of lead into the swing, in particularly this early extension, and how to start maybe getting rid of some of that at the bottom. Hope that helps.